Our dear guests, dear viewers, and fellow citizens, welcome back to another episode of the Inter-University Debate Show. My name is Sharon Mukisa, your host, and today's topic, we are looking at the credibility of elections in Uganda since 1961. With me on the panel today, I have guests from Clarke International University. We are happy to have you. I am going to be introducing each one of them. To start off is Nuwamanya Godfrey. We are very happy to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure being part of the show, madam. Thank you.
Okay, we hope to see you more. And next we have Julius Bisamana.
Thank you so much.
We are happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Kobugabe Faith, the lady on the panel today, we're very happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here too.
And Stephen Ameto, thank you for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much too.
Lastly, but definitely not least, Kenneth Sechiranda, we are happy to have you today on the show.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so before we dive into our topic today, we need to understand the history of where we came from as a nation to choose democracy. In this discussion, you're also going to understand the factors that have led to lack of credibility in the elections and in the process. We are going to discuss a number of things, and the students are going to share their perspectives. So to start off, we need to understand our path as Uganda to democracy today. So taking us through our history, a little bit of our history, in order to understand where we have come from and where we are today, is Godfrey.
Okay, thank you, Madam Sharon. Good evening, viewers and panelists. My name is Nuwamanya Godfrey from Clarke International University. Firstly, I'll take you back through the history of the elections in Uganda since 1961 up to date. Uganda has had several elections. Since 1961, we had the pre-independence elections and the post-independence elections. So today we are going to look at the credibility of these elections over the years. First and foremost, Uganda had elections before the 1961 that were organized by the LEGICO. These elections are the ones that anticipated and prepared for the independence of Uganda, where we see Uganda having representatives in the LEGICO, but only that they were a few, but they are the people that participated and convinced the Legislative Assembly for Uganda to get the independence around 1958. So in 1958, we see Uganda having the elections that were involving DP and UPC. DP won the election, and it was led by the DP won the election and was involving Apollo Kagwa, and we had the Kabaka Yeka party that boycotted the election by the time. So because the Buganda Kingdom boycotted the election, they were pardoned around 1961. So they also participated in the election after the independence. So taking you back, in the 1961, in March, the colonial government organized the elections that included DP and UPC. Buganda Kingdom boycotting the election, we see Benedicto Chwanuka becoming the first pre-president before the independence of Uganda, where DP won by 43 seats, whereas UPC had 37, making DP a winner of that election at the time in 1961. So UPC, it was under Milton Obote. Then we see Uganda getting the independence around in 1962. So in 1962, because in the previous elections, the Baganda had not participated in those elections, so they were pardoned by the Legislative Assembly. So on 15th April, we see the colonial government organizing an assembly, and they made elections where DP won this election by 24 seats, UPC won by 37 seats, and they made an alliance with the Baganda, who had 21 representatives at that time. So the Baganda and the UPC, they made an alliance UPC led by UPC was led by Milton Obote, and the Kabaka Yeka Party was led by Mutesa. So in 1961, Uganda got its first president after the independence, who was Mutesa, and Kabaka and Milton Obote became the first prime minister of the time. But later, we see Uganda going on with the elections. In 1964, we see Upper Milton Obote abolishing the kingdoms because the Bugangizi counties county that was belonging to Buganda had to go back to Bunyoro. So the representatives, the 21 representatives that were in the Kabaka Yeka alliance with UPC, they decided that the counties have to be taken back. So there was a political crisis. So Upper Milton Obote abolished the kingdoms, and we see that from 1964 to 1980, Uganda had a political crisis where we had many presidents coming in, like Godfrey Binaisa and others. So in
Godfrey, fast forward to when do you think political parties were introduced? When was it a multi-party system for Uganda?
Firstly, the multi-party system came in pre-independence when the Legico organized an election between DP and UPC, which participated, and the KY party boycotted. But later, since even when we had the multi-party system, we see when Upper Milton Obote he came to praise, he abolished all kingdoms and all other institutions. So here, meaning that they abolished the constitution. So that crisis led to a disagreement between Upper Milton Obote and Kabaka. So it led into a conflict, and because the institutions were abolished, the Baganda Haile embraced the Ruchiko. So after the abolition of elections, we see many presidents coming in, where we had the Godfrey Binaisa and more. So and remember, the constitution that was amended around 1962 had that elections have to be conducted after every 5 years. So we expected another election to take place around 1967, because later it didn't take place. Reason because there was all the kingdoms were abolished, and we had a crisis, meaning there was instability at the time. So around 1971, we see around 1971 to 1979, when we never had the kingdoms in that political crisis, we see Idi Amin coming in. As Milton Obote was in a meeting, he was told not to come back by his defense, Idi Amin, by that time. So Amin took over power from 1971 to 1979. Then later Amin was overthrown by the Uganda National Liberation Front that was led by Paul Mwanga. This is the Paul Mwanga who organized for the elections that took place in 1980. These were also the multi-party elections. In these elections of 1980, we see political parties like the Conservative Party, DP, UPC, and UPM taking part.
Yes. Godfrey, my question to that would be, given the fact that you've explained to us the history in the 19s,
yes,
I want to understand during those elections, and the elections I would like to refer to as the most recent elections, 2021, 2006, do you see any similar key themes repeating themselves? Do you see patterns that happened back then happening right now?
Yes. In the ancient elections we had as a country, we have had political crisis. We don't attach these conflicts and riots that are taking place currently, we don't attach it to the current situations. They have been there over ages, where we see some groups boycotting, conflicts arising between parties. It's not that conflicts have just come up now. They have been there over time in all elections. But we want to thank the government that is in place, because for elections to take place, the government has to do something. And indeed, we have had peace, stability. Elections could not take place without stability. You cannot hold elections in a state of conflict when there is war. So we acknowledge that, and we thank the government for that.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. Moving on to Julius, we want to understand, he has given us the vivid history of where we came from. So I want to understand today, because our topic is the lack of credibility in elections today. So what do you think are those factors that have contributed to lack of credibility in the election process?
First of all, I'd like to appreciate you for calling us, also to participate in these politics, elections, because we are coming in election. First of all, allow me to briefly talk about the credibility of elections. This is a degree of credibility of election. This is a degree in which election is set free, transparent, and equally involved. Back to your question, like things that have led to poor credibility of election. First of all, there is we have one of them. It is lack of independence of the Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission, to me, my suggestion would be, for credibility of election, we need to have independence of Electoral Commission, whereby is not supposed to be, or a leader is not supposed to be elected by the president. To be a body on its own, so that it can learn its own thing to favor the Ugandans or the citizens. The second point would be, this goes to security personnel or security bodies. Indeed, they have done their job to keep peace, but they also fail somewhere, like they use a lot of energy as they are handling their duties. Recently, for the previous elections, we have been seeing how they've been spreading tear gas to the people. Mostly, sometimes they make accidents as they are driving. Another thing that leads to poor credibility of election, it could be lack of stability in the country. Here it can mean stability, like it's a wide thing, but deeply I can just talk about it. Can I relate it to financial issues? Let me just relate it to financial issues. First of all, as you can see, in Uganda, we are a third world country. We can't learn, or we can't operate without support. We are poor and we are broke. You understand? So you may find one of the things that have led to that, it could be that people are poor. I don't know. People are poor, okay. They lack finance. That leads to stability. If one of the politicians comes to me and tells me, you know what, I'm going to give you money to vote me. Indeed, even if I don't like that politician, I have to vote because they have supported me financially. Also, politicians, they can also pay people to cause instability or to cause chaos in their affairs. That's what I'm talking, like lack of stability. I want to relate it to financial issues. Another thing, ignorance among our politicians. They don't know their rights, they don't know what to do, and they don't know what to follow to be the good leader And I can also talk about vulgar languages. When I talk about vulgar languages, abusive languages, recently I've been seeing presidential candidates, mostly on opposition, decampaigning, talking good things or giving your manifesto is okay, but how have you addressed that nation about what you're going to do for them? Some people use it as a platform to decampaign, as they also disrespect people's what? Respect. You may find whereby someone on opposition is decampaigning the president or is contesting with the president, but the problem, instead of cooperating or making people to respect each other, it just diverts or divides people by talking exactly the bad things the president have done, and to use it also to distract the president's family or president's people.
But I would think that would be a strategy, I mean, to enlighten them, to
Yeah,
show them that the government hasn't done these things and this is what it's supposed to do.
There
Don't
is
you
what we
think
call
that's what they're supposed to
there
do?
is what we call the campaign and to disrespect. If you come to me, okay, if you're not my friend, you're not supposed to tell people things that I've not done to make you to be the good person. It's good to tell people what I've done wrong, and you live, okay, how can I say it? It's like, okay, it's like someone is just, is it like I don't know how I can phrase it.
You disagree with what
I
they are
disagree.
doing right now. Okay, thank you very much, Julius.
Welcome.
We have had your view on what factors lead to lack of credibility in elections. So I'd like to hear Faith's view on the same. Why do you think Ugandans today have lost trust in the Electoral Commission?
Well, thank you for that question. And seriously, people have really lacked the trust in our elections because literally our EC is appointed by our president. So people feel like there is a lot of they have a lot of biases. They're like, how could the one who has chosen you lose? That means you're going to support the person who has chosen you, the one who has given you bread to eat. So people have strongly disagreed with our electoral commission. And another thing, here when I'm saying about that appointed, yes, we know that it's appointed, and try to make us believe that it's still independent.
But then, Faith, someone would argue that there is a criteria they follow, that the president just does not go out to the market and just pick someone and say you are the one. Don't you think that there is certain criteria that they have followed? These people are well qualified. These people have been put to those positions because they're well deserving.
Yes, they have really followed the criteria. But we as people, we want to know. Let the government come out and tell the people, explain, like, you know what, when we are choosing our chairperson, our justice, we follow this criteria. We, the people, due to that we are not informed, we shall come out and argue. Basically, the government should come and inform us. And I really appreciate what the EC does, because at least we know that it follows voters registration and chooses biometrics. And that we appreciate, but for the fact that it is appointed, people always have biases out there.
You're still having some doubts in that. Okay, thank you very much, Faith. And coming to Stephen, Faith has pointed out that the Electoral Commission is appointed. So that could be one of the reasons as to why people have lost trust.
True.
And why their elections today can be deemed not to be credible. So what do you think are other reasons as to why these elections may not be deemed to be credible, free and fair elections?
Thank you. I think the history of our electoral process has been really a very, very great contributing factor to lack of trust in our election process. Why do I say so? We look at it from 1962, the primary place where we had the Lego coming up and so on. We see the whole process where there are people who are backing out because of disappointment. Probably they are unsatisfied with the process. But also in that place, we don't see the EC do something really clear to convince the hearts of people. We are seeing people being forgiven on electoral process. I don't know which constitution permits that or which nation permits that kind of thing. And we all come across to the time where we have a committee that comes up. The Attorney General Binaisa comes up and sets a committee, and then we're supposed to have elections coming up to put up a president after the whole saga of Idi Amin comes up and so on. We have elections, and then we come to the 1980s where Obote comes back and the whole coalition government thing comes back again. Museveni gets unconvinced, goes back in the bush, comes back. Now we are seeing when someone is not convinced, they take the violent route. The opposition is not happy with this, they take the other route. So the whole process has been a system where it's as though has been built in our DNA that when we are not convinced about something, whether they're telling us truth or not, we just don't agree. We tend to fight everything that comes around us. But we cannot also discredit what they're fighting after. Why? Because there are evidences of things that have happened that sometimes gives us, I say most times actually, gives us proof against the credibility of our elections. For example, I will give a simple credit scenario of the elections of the 2006 general elections. When the African Union made observations, we saw scenarios where the African Union wrote a report. They came as observers, international observers. And they gave a report and they said, yes, we had the whole electoral process. The electoral law has been set in place. Like the 2008 national election law. It is in place, the constitution is in place. But the implementation of those laws is not really clear. You get, the electoral law is in place, true, but the implementation of it is not clear. Why do I say implementation is not clear? According to that constitution, there are things that were supposed to be done by the Electoral Commission. And one of it that's supposed to support the implementation is the independence, like she has said. But yes, we might have a system that puts a group of people, probably that a committee that picks up a process where maybe parliament comes up and then they say, we think these people, amongst these are people who are potentials to be to head this electoral commission. But then, on a certain ground, we all know, this is not an hidden secret in our eyes. We all know that in every system, possibility of sabotage is there. We're in a country that we have been named among the most corrupt in the world. We are on a top list of that. So, believing that the people picked are on credit, on merit, they really were picked by merit and not sabotaged by influence, no, like the incumbent power people come up and then they put their own choices. For example, we look at the scenario, like right now, this is literally not really touching elections, but right now, we have one of the people related to the president heading Bank of Uganda. So my question is, how do you get the credibility of these people? You get, it puts questions in the heads of many, including the political analysts. We will agree that yes, there has been issues that have come up. We can't say no to that. Our elections, according to our constitution, we have had, like the 1962 constitution tells us clearly that in that constitution there were things that were set up, like the president being given the highest power, like the centralization of power, you know, the unity of all these things, the independence of the electoral commission, the parliamentary elections being set up and so on, which are all okay. But when we look through all these things, we'll find loopholes in the middle of them. Why? Because now the centralization of all this power, if we are talking about the EC being independent as its own, we must not have instructions that are coming from a certain place that EC is receiving on how it must run its business. If something is independent, if a body, if an institution of government is independent, it ought to be on its own, not having instructions from somewhere. We look at the whole system. Let me give an example. Currently, we had the UPC being disappointed of not their political party president being nominated for the presidential rally and so on, the campaigns. Now, according to his words, Jimmy Akenda, he says they had fulfilled all the requirements that were needed, but then they were not given access to the grounds. Now, you look at that limitation, the regulations of the freedom of the contestants, leave alone only the presidential campaigns. This cuts across all. We have seen scenarios where some MP contestants have not been given access to the Electoral Commission offices for certain reasons that they may know. So that place where we are using the military or the police to have regulations on contestants, regulating the rights and the law, the implementation of the electoral law is not being put in place because there are people who have incumbent power that are regulating this. However much, personally, I think that the opposition also have a very big contribution to the incredibility of our elections. Why? Because we have not had civic and rural education of the people to understand the electoral process. So we have the electoral laws in place, but then even the people we are bringing up as our contestants or the nominated candidates of these political parties, they literally do not have the civic education on the electoral process, the electoral law. I should say they're ignorant of the process and the election laws. So they come, and this is where we're having the violence coming in, scenarios where police is arresting people and then people are complaining and this is coming up. So the opposition must have a certain place of contributing a lot to educate their own candidates.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. I think it still goes back to the role of the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
That it ought to give out civic education. So coming to Kenneth, they have talked about the Electoral Commission and have stated that it might not be independent as it may seem today. So I'd like to understand from you, is it really independent or is it inclined to a certain position?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. As a panelist, I appreciate the opportunity for hosting me, Sharon. When it comes to the credibility of the Electoral Commission, I agree with them. Our Electoral Commission is not independent because we have to compare ourselves with, like, for example, a developing country. Right now, they have said we are a third-class country, but Uganda right now, currently, they are considering us to be a developing country because of what is happening or what the president has done for us. But our Electoral Commission, if you compare it with other countries, where does it put us when it comes to the politics? Are our elections free? Because when you look at the article, when you look at the Article 1, Section C, it is Section C4, it is of free and fair elections. But are we having the free and fair elections? What are the accesses to the Electoral Commission? Like I individually, how do I access the votes? We saw like the previous elections, we didn't have data in Uganda, right? We're offline, the whole country. Is that a free and fair election?
We had data, I think we just didn't have access.
We didn't have access to the
internet.
To the internet anyway, yeah. We didn't have access to the internet, but was that a free and fair election? Who counted the votes? You know, that question goes to the Electoral Commission. Who counted the votes? After counting the votes, anyway, I was so surprised that even the opposition, it didn't come up like together to request for a criteria of the Electoral Commission of how it does its works. Because, you know, we are not the ones who appoint the Electoral Commission. We also find it there. But how does it, like, I remember you have asked one of our fellow panelists about the particular positions in the Electoral Commission, like who chooses those particular people to be in those specific positions. That question comes into us. And most of the time you find out in our country here right now in Uganda that us individuals like we who are the ones educated, that we find it most of the times that those positions are being given to not the best candidates. You know? Not the best candidates. A person has a diploma level and is representing a full nation. So it means even a primary 7 dropout can represent what? Uganda and be a president, which is not always good.
We saw many of them coming to pick up nomination forms. So thank you very much, Kenneth. So in our first segment, we have looked at the history of how Uganda came to be a democratic country, how it chose a multi-party system. And also we have looked at some of the factors that contribute to lack of credibility in the elections in Uganda. And they've also shared with us their view on whether the Electoral Commission is independent or it's inclined to a certain position. We shall be taking a break and shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back after the break, and we are right back to our discussion with students, advocates, and our guests from Clarke International University. So we are going to continue with our discussion today, our topic being the credibility of elections in Uganda since 1961. And our question that we'd like to pose to Godfrey is that we want to understand, has the Constitution lived up to its promises of guaranteeing free and fair elections in Uganda?
Well, thank you, Madam Sharon. On the Constitution part, we see some articles being stated, like the Article 62 of the Uganda's Constitution guarantees Electoral Commission as an independent body, meaning that it's given powers to conduct free and fair elections, partially without any favor of any political party. And also, Article 114 of the Uganda's Constitution, which states that people shall express their will and consent on what and who shall lead them. So here we see the Constitution giving people or citizens powers to choose leaders on their own, not being directed that vote for this one, vote for the other one, but according to their choice. So when you attach the constitutional part to the credibility of the Uganda's elections, we see indeed it's stated by the Constitution, and the Electoral Commission works directed to the Constitution. Also, not that the Constitution, rather the Electoral Commission works alone, it works with other bodies. It works with the Parliament, because we see the Parliament is responsible for amendment of the Constitution. It works with the executive, it works with the judiciary. When we see petitions coming from certain elections, from certain individuals, they are handled by the judiciary. Even when the Electoral Commission has announced some election results that are not free and fair to people, when a petition is true and it is judged by the judiciary, they can cancel. Based on the constitutional acts, they cancel the results from the EC and go on with those from the judiciary. So also, naturally, like we see, we shall always have petitions coming up from various people, because naturally, culturally, we are all supposed to be winners. I, Godfrey, when I'm participating in something, let's say in an election, I have the confidence that I'm going to win. How do you tell me that I'm going to lose? Yes, so because those people have the culture in them that every time you participate you have to win, it's the reason why they go ahead and bring up petitions that how do you declare me when I had supporters that have lost when I'm supposed to win? So that culture thing in us that everybody is a winner and we cannot win at the same time. So the Electoral Commission, following the constitutional acts and the guidelines, it's really doing its part. As we see our country, we are not a first-class country, nor are we the second-class country. We are developing. But when we compare from the previous years to where we are not bad off. We are able to handle any matter that comes up through those organs, the judiciary, with EC in coordination. So we try to handle disputes that come about. So the Electoral Commission is doing a tremendous work in Uganda.
Okay, thank you very much, Godfrey. Given the fact that we are coming to the election, we're already in the election season anyways, but we are going to do the major voting next year. So I want to understand from Julius, how prepared do you think Ugandans are for the elections in 2026?
First of all, when you compare Uganda of 62 and Uganda of 2024, indeed, people are no longer suffering from what we call illiteracy about politics. They understand what exactly politics is. But it's a problem to Ugandan elections because now many opportunities are coming in, not to work for the people, but to work for their stomachs. I think Ugandans are not much ready compared to countries like
But Julius, someone would argue that this is the time when the youth have really stepped up to be interested in politics, given the fact that we had His Excellency Bobi Wine come up, Robert Chagulanyi come up in the previous elections. Yeah. So we saw so many people, so many youths being interested in politics, running behind this man, campaigning for him, and other youths also came up to take up positions. So don't you think the youths are at least ready for the elections next year?
I remember we talked about something like giving out education or political education. People are ready, but most of those people, they are not ready to work for the people. When you look at, I think NUP came in 2016, I think it started as People Power, then developed into a national party, political party in 2021. But when you look at those people who have been in the parliament, indeed they have done, they have done something, but they're not ready, like those people who were there, or who got the opportunity to go through what the elections mean.
What do you mean by go through what the election
When you look
means?
at people like Dr. Kizza Besigye, and you compare him with Bobi Wine, indeed, Dr. Kizza Besigye very far better than Bobi Wine.
But don't you think, if you use that kind of criteria, don't you think you're putting Bobi Wine or Robert Chagulanyi already at disadvantaged lane? Because the other, Besigye, has been here for a while. He has been here for a long time. And Bobi Wine has just come up.
Okay, let me talk about this thing. You all know we accept change. If you don't change, you will do what? We change you. But how are you going to change? Are you driving us back, or you're pushing us forward? Indeed, we need change, but which type of change are you bringing in? I'm not too political, but I've been observant enough, because since maybe I've never got that chance to participate in politics on the ground.
You already participated.
Okay, Godfrey, you had something to add. Yes, please.
I can supplement a little. Basing on the records from the New Vision in 2006, about the 2006 elections, it's not that the youth have supported opposition now now supporting the current political parties. But even in the past years, when Dr. Chiza Besigye participated in the 2006 elections, the new vision, in the new vision of 2006, they quoted that the youth largely supported opposition, whereas elderly supported the party that was in place, that is NRM. And indeed, being fair, at times you have to credit someone for something. Like in Africa, we are one of the country, Uganda is one of the country which has had stability over the years. So we have had peace, conducted elections, much as not everyone is being satisfied as he or she expects, but we have had some elections over the years. And we have had the longest leadership over the years. We are credited in Africa. So we stand out. So the youth support, we stand out.
As a stable country.
Okay, we keep
Yes,
on top,
please.
you see. Among African countries, we have had stability. So the youth want change, it is true. We want change, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, which change?
Definitely.
Every political party has the capability of leading, but mostly the elderly, they look at things like we have had elderly, they experienced that saga that was there during the early years of from independence. They experienced many wars, so there was instability. So when I see elderly sticking on the already what they have, like the slogan says they are protecting the gains, at times I credit them. Indeed, they have to, because they feel they should not go back. Much as they would need change, but they would want to take their time. But you know, for us, the youth, we want fast things, you know.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Stephen, you look like you had something to say about his submission.
Yeah. It's driving me to a statement recently made by a very prominent official in this government, in this country, who has been in the system for long. Of recent, there was a program that was organized by the law community in this country. And the Lord Mayor, Arias Lukwago, he made a speech. And then our retired general came. I want to call him retired because of his age. General Tafire. He came and he made a statement and he said everything that they have spoken there was lack of sense. He said it was all nonsense. Why? Because he was very clear. He said that the country is deviating from the path. It was very clear. Now this is an elder. The one he is referring to as those who are saying let's not
It's okay, let him go on first.
like let's protect the gains. The very elder says we are deviating, and he says the young people need to align in order away from the deviation the elders have made. This was a personal statement he made, not my words. Himself quoting, he said, we the elders, there are things right now we can't change, but the young people need to rise and make this change by themselves. You need to align the country. It is obvious right now that we are a government that plans for our budget with money that doesn't exist. It makes a lot of sense when we wake up and the elders are telling us, let's protect the gains. The question I'm asking myself is, what are the gains we have had? Because now, what are we protecting that we have gained? Yes, we will talk of peace, but peace under what? Is there freedom in this peace? Is there growth in this peace? Is there advancement in this peace? Because right now, as we talk, the average Ugandan who ranges from the age of 25 to 30, none of them crosses, very little percentage cross to beyond 100 million shillings. We're talking of developing countries. Most of us can't go to that stage. Yes, we are setting up a place of peace with no development. We are still in the state of a growing nation. Now, that on its own has affected our political system because as we set up governments, they are the very people that come with ideologies, philosophies that are meant to grow us. So if we are setting a place where like you said, the youth are rising. You said it is true that Robert Chagulanyi has come up as a young man. Youth are gathering around him. A lot of it is coming. We appreciate what he's doing. We cannot back down on that. However, as this thing is coming, we are seeing partisan places of things which are happening, even with the constitution. That the youth, yes, they are rising up for this thing. We are trying to build up a place of safety in this country because of the wars that came years back. But looking back does not build the future. We know where we came from, but we must be a people with a vision. The president made a campaign years ago. He said Vision 2040. And now we have changed to protecting the gains. I don't know whether it's part of the vision or we have changed the vision or there's another idea that has come up that we as Ugandans we must encapsulate. Because at the end of the day, it becomes a confusing element. Why? A constitution is made, referring to constitution. The constitution is made and we're the very people who break it or we make it and then we change it and then we come back and then we try to let people understand what we have changed. And what we have changed, whether they agree or they don't agree, it has to work. And we are living in a country of confusion. We are in a place where, yes, the Honorable Chagulanyi might come up and he says, now we have to bring this change, we have to do this, there is no freedom, there is no peace. It is true, all over media, there is no freedom, it's obvious. This is not a hidden secret anywhere. We all know that there are things you will post and disappear. We know it. We know there are people who are vanishing. We know it. But also we know that however much the youth are setting up enforcements to do these things, there are constitutional things that, yes, are not working for us. Number one, the 2008 national election law, the constitution that was set. I should say none of it has been followed. Why? Number one, the independence of the Electoral Commission isn't there. It has not been there. But like you stated in the Constitution, in 1996, 1967, the 1962, all of them give us a place of the independence of this body. But we ourselves, we are questioning the independence of this body.
Stephen, before we move to the independence of the Electoral Commission, Faith, you had something to submit?
Yes. Regardless of the faults and the setbacks of the current government, we really have to give it its flowers.
True.
If you come up as a candidate that is coming to contest and you're saying you're bringing change, then come and tell us the change you want to bring. Don't stand on the pulpit giving a manifesto and say that the current president is a fool. There, I will now start to think of what change are you bringing to us. Are you giving us violence or what? I believe that a leader that is coming to bring change should come and be like, before even gives us a manifesto, be like, I appreciate the current government. And what he's saying that everything that the youth and what the disappearing of people, yes, we have had that, but the fact that we have the court, the Supreme Court and everything, we believe that we have the law. And however much you might come up and say that maybe it's just there as something, as you know, we have the law and it's not implemented. But we have the people, and I believe that if really something happens, like they will always say that maybe arrested people will come up and be like, no, this is not allowed. That means we have the voice. They will come out and be like, no, we won't allow this. But if you come out in that way, then you air out your view, and the high-ups will know that, yeah, this thing maybe we did something. But the fact that they have left it there, and they know, and they know people have urged it, that means they have followed the criteria and the law. To why? Because we make law, you say that we make the law and we're the one who breaks the law.
True.
That's true.
Very true, we are breaking it.
So that means...
Speaking of Kizza Besigye, the procedure of airing out. Recently I've been following the whole pattern of his arrest and all the justice system that is being processed. Number one, if we're talking about airing out that to court, the justice system that is meant to implement this law, we already have a sabotage live in Uganda happening as we're seated right now, that we have a civilian being tried in a martial court. So how do you explain that to me, that we are having an implementation written it goes to court. We saw recently, I think last Wednesday, there was supposed to be an hearing in court. And the judge, okay, the judge denies him freedom of speech, and he says, put it in writing. He walks out of court live in the front of the whole nation. So you cannot say that there is implementation by the justice system, by the very people who are meant to actually uphold this law.
I don't support that, but don't you think really by saying so, the judge really had something behind
No,
it?
no, no,
Maybe
no, no.
someone-
We know the Constitution. We are not ignorant of the Constitution.
We are not
Okay,
it is clear.
We
Okay,
really
to
don't
get
know
to
what
get
the
the
Constitution
discussion
is.
clear, he has explained, he has given a vivid example, evidence of what
Yes.
happened. So I would like to know from you, Faith, what do you have to say about his submission, his evidence? Because he's saying there is the law, but then those in power are not implementing it. So are we really going to rely on it, or we should divert to another option?
When you say that we should divert to another option, I say no. We just have to make our law better. We should come up as people and you're like, you know what, this and this, we as the people of Uganda, we did not support this. And how are we going to make this better? It's us. And this, before I started to give my view, I was like, as a candidate that is coming to put change, don't come and criticize the people who have been there. Give them their flowers and tell us what you want to change. If you come and you're like, this and this, I did not understand this, then you ask so that you might be enlightened about it. And then be like, now we want our law to always tell us what are the points and the views they always use in their courts, so that everyone out there, actually we Ugandans, what I think is disturbing us is that we are not enlightened and educated about the law and everything that concerns it.
Thank you very much,
can-
Faith. Thank
can
you
I
very much,
supplement?
Faith. Because of time, I would like to move to Kenneth. Posing the same question, do you think that Ugandans are ready for 2026 general elections?
2026 elections, they have come in a way as if we aren't expecting them. Because even right now we are on an ending quest of a question. But why would we have a question when we expected the elections? We usually see that most of the times our articles, are being caught on, and changed. Because most of the times when we are electing, when we are putting in our votes for a leader, we expect change. But what change? Are you changing the electoral commission, or you are changing the whole nation?
Exactly.
And changing the nation has nothing to do with the articles.
That is it.
But we usually see right now in Uganda, and not right now, but currently, as time comes in, the electoral commission, it means the moment you change the articles, you are changing the work of the electoral commissions.
True.
And that is the biggest burden, and that's why we are here. And with the youth, we are almost 70% in the country, but our elders, they take it in a way that they are still, our gods. Yeah? There is a reason as to why an adult is at 18. And there is also a certain age whereby a person stops understanding. That's why most of the times, like, you become an adult at 18, but you might find out some colleagues, individuals, the youth who are there, they are 30, they're still staying home. They're being treated as like a young kid of put on a pamper, But that's not how the world moves, because the moment I'm 18, it means I can do my decisions as an individual. And even when it comes to the elections, it means I have a right and freedom to choose who I want. But what criteria are supposed to be followed for me to choose that particular person? Are you going to force me? Is it worthy? Because most of the times we even ask ourselves, is it worthy? Because maybe I'm going for the elections 2026, but if my party president, like DP, I have to go to the DP president. If I go to put in my vote, I'm quite very sure that maybe the president is not going to make it. So it means sometimes that's why we find ourselves not even participating in the votes, because if you look at the current elections. Most of the youth, we are the most, but we didn't participate in the elections. You find that our moms and dads, our grannies, they went and elected. But we, the youth, we were left behind. Not because we didn't want, but is that freedom there? You know? A free election. That's what we are hoping for. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, yes,
I
please.
believe that credibility is not just an event that happens just there and then. Credibility is a continuous process. And Uganda has really proven that it has been resilient and it has tried its best to give us a democratic an electro-democratic state, right? So I really think that it has tried its best and deserves its flowers that the government has done. Yeah, it has really
Okay,
tried.
thank you very much, Faith. Thank you very much, Faith. That has been our discussion today. We have been with guests from Clarke International University. You have been a very vibrant panel, and we've been happy to have you on the show. They have shared their perspective, and would like to know what you think in the comment section down below. I have been your host, Sharon Mukisa. Until next time.